Welcome to the Agility in Real Life podcast, Take 5 in Real Life. Now your hosts, Mike Studeman, Jeff Lee, and Pat Campbell.
Hello and welcome back to the Take5IRL podcast. I'm Jeff Lee, one of the partners at agilityIRL and one of your hosts.
And I'm Pat Campbell, new partner and the other host today.
Yeah, and Pat, we're doing something novel here. We're having a podcast without Mike. We'll see how we do first time with the two of us working together. But on the podcast, we've worked together obviously many times in the past at a variety of clients. And usually my experience in our past lives working together is our clients often frame why they want to be agile in delivering faster. Can we get through a sprint, get people to work together as a team, thinking of getting stuff out there. But a lot of times they seem to be missing another component of the broader business perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I by the way, I hope not having Mike doesn't cause an earthquake or anything, and we'll see how it goes. But absolutely, there always seems to be a disconnect between the implementation of agile practices and why be agile in the first place. And faster always seems to be the go-to answer, and yet, one of the we've seen a lot of transformation failures as well. And one of the primary reasons for those failures is that there's too much focus on implementing practices over what are the business outcomes you're looking for.
Yeah, when you say practices, what are you talking about there?
Agile practices, Scrum, Kanban, the practices that come with those frameworks, SAFe and LESS. And if the focus is on those practices, sight has been lost of, well, what business outcome are we trying to enact here?
Yeah, definitely see that. Definitely see focus on process, right? The idea of we implement this playbook and it will lead us to success without thinking of the broader business outcomes. But how do you tie those things together? How do you get people engaged in looking at the real business outcomes and who do you need to be looking at those? Is it just the business people?
It's business leadership for sure, the stakeholders and the general leadership team as much as possible. It of course is situation dependent, but the higher up you can get in terms of a slice of the organization, the better. And you want all aspects represented. There's going to be the leadership and what they need to happen with the business. There's going to be the department or director level that needs to make something happen at their level. And then there's the team level. So they all need to be represented, but leaders do lead the change. And typically it's going to come down to a mix of business outcomes. And there's usually things like employee engagement or speed that we mentioned earlier, market responsiveness, productivity, predictability. There's a number of business things that we're trying to accomplish. Focus on 2 or 3 and then use those to help you figure out which agile outcomes do you want, which would be driven by the improvement in which agile capabilities, which would then determine what practices do we have to focus on. That's kind of the chain connecting what you're trying to do with the business with where are you trying to focus from a practice perspective.
Yeah, you're talking about those business outcomes, and I 100% agree. I think that a lot of times it's like a product backlog, right? Where it needs to be prioritized. All of these things are good things, right? And sometimes if we say, hey, which of these are most important? They're like, hey, I thought going agile means we get all of them. Well, potentially, but you need to prioritize because the practices that you put in, like you're talking about, Pat, are going to lead to some of these business outcomes, but a singular practice won't lead to all of those outcomes. And so being able to prioritize that, manage your organizational change that goes along with that, there's a lot to it. So yeah, do you have any other tips here? We're getting close to our 5-minute allotment of time here, but any thoughts for companies who are thinking about making a big agile change as in defining those business outcomes?
Well, as a matter of fact, we have an approach, as you know now, that will help us help our clients work with their leadership to prioritize and focus on a couple of key outcomes, and then from there, help focus their training, their coaching, and so forth, and then demonstrate through KPIs actual impact on those business outcomes.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah,
it's
tracking
called Path
metrics,
to
all those.
Agility,
Mhm.
and we'd be happy to, obviously follow up with anybody who would be interested in learning more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Path to Agility, it's out there on the internet. It's not our website, but obviously we let people know about things beyond our website. But like you mentioned, we're happy to work with people to help make that a reality if it seems like something that would be beneficial to your organization. Any closing thoughts, Pat, before we wrap up?
It looks like we made it without Mike, so I look forward to getting back together, the three of us.
All right, fantastic. Thanks everybody for joining us again in this inaugural podcast with just Pat and I. Yes, Mike will be back. So look forward to seeing him later and seeing you again on the Take 5 IRL podcast.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Take 5 IRL podcast. If you like it, please go ahead and share it with someone, as well as like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, leave us a comment or a suggestion for a future episode. Again, thanks for listening, and we look forward to you joining us next time on the Take 5 IRL podcast.